Hello, Earth Angels. I'm Elvia Rowe, founder of AngelsTeach.com, and welcome to Messages from the Angels for the month of May 2021. I am in beautiful, very sunny, very warm Philadelphia, Pennsylvania right now with our daughter, and I'm inspired, really inspired actually, to share a little bit of the neighborhood that she lives in. It's called Manayunk, and it's part of Philadelphia, towards the outskirts of Philly, but really sweet little neighborhood, and very, very inspired by what I'm going to share with you for your reading. So, as we always like to do, I invite you to choose number 1, number 2, or number 3. Which of these images has the message for you? So before we get to reading number 1, I just want to show you this video briefly of this shop that I absolutely love. It's a little coffee shop, and it's also a plant shop. So all of the readings for this month are inspired by plants and creative corners, I guess you would call it, in this beautiful little nook in Manayunk, Philadelphia. So just wanted to share this so you get a sense and a feel of what I have pulled out of this beautiful little place. So for those of you who chose number 1, this is your image. And I love these two little snaily guys. They're so sweet. They're so happy and fun, and they also share a message about patience, and the divine time is not what the ego often wants. Things are going a little slower than perhaps you would like. For those of you who chose number 1, there's definitely something that you're pushing to make happen faster than is really in divine order. The good news is that, things are happening and you have company. You're not alone, and that's part of the message here, is that there is a sense of support when we realize that we're all in this together, that we're all at the will of divine flow. We are all working with Source together, and there's comfort in that. So I'm not getting a message about, which I did ask actually as I was reading this image, if there was something about waiting for a partner to come. And some of you may sense that, and if you do, own it, take it. Maybe that is there in for you. The core message that I'm delivering, however, is it's not about that. It's really about understanding that we're all at the will of divine flow. There's no escaping it. And we're in it together, and it's what's meant to be. And the sooner that we're able to let go of pushing, the easier things become. So, patience, my sweet one, is your message. It's all in divine order. So these little guys made me giggle. I just love this display. And so many different expressions here, and it's hard to look at this and not feel a sense of joy. The message in this particular image, I heard it so loud and clear when I first saw this, is to feel the feels and to allow your emotions to just be whatever they are. And I'm also hearing actually a secondary message is to just allow yourself to be wacky when you want to be wacky, to be crazy when you want to be crazy, to just be silly when you want to be silly, to just allow your true expression, whatever it is. But the primary message really is to encourage you to allow the feels. And I think it's been said before, but I think warrants being said again, is that there's such pressure, I think, in the lightworker community to hold the higher vibration, to will our way through a positive mindset, and to, we put pressure on ourselves to just feel good all the time. And sometimes, sometimes life is hard, and sometimes it's not the right thing to try to push to feel this sense of joy and levity. Sometimes we need to allow ourselves to be to work through those harder emotions of grief and sorrow and sadness. And so if you chose number 2, there's probably some emotion that you're in a little bit of denial around, and this is your invitation to listen to it, to acknowledge it, to honor it, to process it, to do whatever you need to move through it, and to get to the other side. So again, that secondary message is to just allow your silly side, just allow your playful side, allow that inner kid in you to have a voice, to play, to be goofy, to just have fun, and to be joyful, which I know is a very different message from the primary one, so I don't want to lose focus on that because that's really the core of it. But when you look at this picture, how can you not want to just giggle? All right, so for those of you who chose number 3, this is your image, and I love this. It actually reminds me of a little Lamy planter that I had when I was a little girl, and it was absolutely one of my favorite things in the whole world. When I first saw this display in the store, I immediately heard community. And if you look at these different animals, there's a cow, there's cats, there's a raccoon, there's a piggy, there's dogs, and I think a bear, maybe a donkey. I can't see that well without my glasses, but there are a lot of different kinds of animals. And the message around community is that community can look a lot of different ways. We have communities within our families, we have communities within our churches for those of us who belong to church, we have communities within our place of work, within our neighborhood, within our town, within our country. Community, again, is a very broad thing. But if you chose number 3, and there's a message for community around you, there's an invitation here for you to look at community a little differently, and to understand that, community is a common set of beliefs that people share, that bring them together, that create that glue, if you will. And again, if you're getting this message, there's something about your definition of community that needs to shift a little bit, just to, I think, change your perspective slightly, is what it's feeling like. In other words, a good example is that, sometimes we can have a friend that we've had for decades, and they're in our lives because they've always been in our lives, and at one point in time they were, exactly what we needed, and, maybe they're not as important in terms of our own spiritual growth and support going forward. And so it doesn't mean that they're not in our lives anymore, but we may need to shift how we interact with them, and maybe they're not at the core anymore. So I'm giving an example of one particular individual, but this is really around a group of people. It could be your family. I know a lot of folks are feeling the stresses of, especially in the U.S. with the recent elections and political beliefs, and I know that that's happening in other parts of the world as well. And then there's the whole pandemic thing, and it's really, in some ways, putting a very new light, shining a new light on stressors in families and in relationships in general. And so, it's important that when you need to have boundaries, it's always about being true to yourself and having those boundaries in a way that is loving and kind and compassionate for all involved, including you. But it may mean that you need to interact in those certain communities a little differently. It may mean that you need to seek out community that's going to be a little more supportive and accepting of who you are. It's going to be unique to you and your unique circumstances. But bottom line is that there's some kind of a shift with respect to community that the angels are wanting for you right now. And that car is telling me to hurry it up. Not me, like this message. Like this message is, there's a sense of urgency. Like, do it now. Because, bottom line is that the longer that we stay in relationships that aren't supportive and uplifting and nurture who we truly are, that takes its toll. Health-wise, just physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, it's not what the angels want for us. So, community, look at it a little differently, because there is one here for you, wherever that may be. Could be Angels Teach, could be someplace else. I'm not trying to sell Angels Teach with this. This is about you finding what's right for you. Okay, so that is a wrap for our messages for the month of May. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you haven't already, please do come on over to angelsteach.com and see what we've got going on over there. We are actually going to be starting another group effort with the 1, 2, 3s of angel communication once every, well, I'm not going to say exactly because it changes depending upon the angel's guidance, but we did it a year ago. We're going to do it again this year. We're going to do a 30-day journey together with angel communication, and it's always nice to share space with others doing it at the same time. It's a self-study course, but it's nice to be able to plug in and just know that you're on the same timeline with other folks. So with that, so much love to each and every one of you. Blessings. Be well.